Welcome to episode 59 of the Hoops Fix podcast with me, your host Sam Nita, full-time British basketball advocate. And on this week's show, we have another legend of the game. We've been doing a few episodes going into the off-the-court stuff. Now we're going back to the on-the-court stuff. And we have Steve Hansell, a Birmingham and British basketball legend. The first Brit, I believe, to play in the Euroleague Final Four and win a Euroleague title, which we go into a little bit in this, amongst many other things. A very successful college career, and obviously is now coaching in Birmingham. So we spoke a little bit about the state of Birmingham basketball as well. It's worth noting there is a couple of things in this interview. One, his chair is a little bit squeaky, so that's the squeakiness that you hear creaking as he sort of leans back and forward. And then secondly, if you're watching on video, the light changes drastically during the middle of the show. For me, it gets a lot darker because a storm comes over and the window that sits opposite where I'm sitting right now was suddenly clouded over, and so I come across a lot darker. So I'm going to try and mess with the levels in the edit, but it might be noticeable. So yeah, I just wanted to get that out there. Before we do get into the show, as always, do need to give a quick mention to our Patreon account. Please go and check it out. Hoopsfix.com. No, not hoopsfix.com. Patreon.com/hoopsfix. That's patreon.com/HOOPSFIX. There you can sign up to give us a monthly contribution of as much or as little as you'd like to help us do the work that we're doing. Please go and check it out. Please consider donating the price of a cup of coffee every single month to help us continue growing and building what we're trying to do to contribute to British basketball. If you're listening on iTunes, please take 2 seconds to give us a rating and review. It would be much appreciated. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe and let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you want to reach out to me, you can hit me up on every single social media platform at HoopsFix, or you can drop me an email to my email address. That's sam@hoopsfix.com. I reply to every single one. Anyway, that is enough from me. Thank you so much for tuning in. Here is this week's show with me and Steve Hansell. Steve, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So, you're another one of the legends of the game that I think their career is very much underappreciated, and a lot of people don't know the ins and outs of your story. So, kind of had to get you on to go into the details. And where I always like to start with everyone is right at the beginning. So, rewind right back to the start, and can you kind of tell us how you first started playing basketball? What made you first get a ball in your hands?
Well, I guess it all started back at secondary school. Dudley Manor School. I think I played basketball one time in the summer before that. I remember playing once before that. And then went to the school that my older cousin went to the school also. So I went to that school, then I was introduced to the game. Teacher gave me the ball, Steve Amos, which you probably hear a little bit more of during this conversation. But he introduced me to the game. He gave me a ball and told me to do this, to a layup. I did it. Do a shot. I did it. And then, it all took off from there, really. So I would say from 11 years old.
Do you feel like you had a natural ability when you first started playing out? Do you feel like you had sort of a natural raw talent, or was it something that you had to work at to get good at?
It was natural. I was a natural sportsman anyway. I was football, cricket. Didn't like rugby so much because I didn't like being tackled. But I played Sunday league football, district for the schools. So I was always active. But with basketball, it was slightly different. I mean, the reaction that I was getting when I was asked to do something and I did it, that kind of gave me an inkling. And then, the ease of me doing what they're asking me to do and wondering what are they so happy about, that was the feeling. So, once that took place, it was like, it was a little bit easy.
Do you feel like you fell in love with the game straight away?
Yeah.
Yeah. What was it about it that you liked?
I don't know. Well, at first, basketball was on TV on Channel 4. I remember seeing it before I went to secondary school. And I remember seeing, in my head, first game was Birmingham Bullets against Crystal Palace and Butch Hayes and those guys. And then NBA came on TV, and it was like I found myself watching it, and I enjoyed the game. I enjoyed watching it. So then playing, and like I said, I was a natural sportsman anyway, so I love sports. But when I played it, it was like for most of us, it's a drug, isn't it? Once it's in your system, you can't shake it loose. So yeah, it's hard to describe, but yeah, once I played it, it was just like kept on going. I still played a little bit of football at the time, up until I was 14. I remember having a conversation with my mother, and she thought I was doing a little bit too much. She said I had to choose. So yeah, the choice was kind of easy. I was getting recognition and stuff, so I chose basketball.
So would you say at that point, so you're 14 years old, you've got to choose between football and basketball, you choose basketball. Do you think that was the point where it became a much more serious thing where you're like, I want to pursue a professional career, I want to do this, I want to do that? Or was it still just very much about the love of the game, you enjoyed it at that point?
No, like he says, at that point I was playing for England in 15, so it's like it was an easier decision for me because I'm playing for England in this sport and just Sunday league here, so. And plus also we train in the warmth rather than in the cold. That was part of the decision as well. But yeah, it was just like, you just rolled it. It just happened. It was just, what was the question again, sorry?
I was just saying, was that the point that you started taking it more seriously, and thinking, I want to be a professional or whatever it might be?
Yeah, also it came on TV. There was college games on TV, as well as the Crystal Palace and the Birmingham Bullets game. The college games, I saw Providence, I saw NC State and that. When I saw that, I was like, I want to be one of those guys. I could see myself being one of those guys. So yeah, at 14, from when I was made my mind up that this was the only game, it was just all in.
And was it you were predominantly playing at secondary school? At what point did you start getting involved with sort of club basketball?
Well, our teachers were members of Birmingham Bullets. They were coaches and team managers, so they saw my talent and brought me along immediately, really. So I could say as early as 12, 13, I was with the Bullets. I can't remember the time, but it was I think we had an under-15s team.
Right.
So yeah, it was almost immediate. I was playing with the Bullets.
And it wasn't long before you made your senior debut in the BBL, right?
Right, yeah, I made my senior debut when I was 16.
And do you think that was was that something you had aspired to be? What was the kind of, give us the lay of the land of the league in those times, kind of what you were seeing and what you were aspiring to sort of work towards?
What I was seeing, it was different. I was 16. So I was still a cadet and a junior. So going into the men's world, it was like there were no prisoners. You had to measure up real quick. So that transition was different, for me, because I think me and one other lad, Adrian Anderson, we was in similar positions. But the program kind of made it easier for us because, it was structured all the way through. So, the seniors used to come and watch the under-18s games and things like that. So they knew who we were. So, the transition going into that team, I guess my personality and how I was, I was a fighter. So I guess they absorbed me in and I didn't get too many issues from the younger lads.
How did it work with regards to, did you, after you made your, you sort of started playing with the seniors, did you stop playing for the juniors and cadets completely, or were you playing games with the juniors and cadets still, and then also playing with the seniors? How did it work in terms of your own scheduling and playing games?
Our junior team was pretty strong. So, we were winning games without me. So I was brought in for the big games, the major games, the games that I was a little bit nervous about. So that's how the schedule was worked out.
So for those, who were your main rivals, that sort of generation of top guys that were coming through at the same time that you were? Who were the guys that kind of you were looking at being like, I want to prove myself against these guys, or these are the guys I'm sort of trying to be as good as, or kind of, who were the other main guys of that era?
English guys? I mean, what era? Because like you said, at 16, I was with the men, so it totally changed. I'm playing with the guys that went to DePaul and St. David's, North Carolina.
Yeah.
So at 16, I was exposed to that. So when it came to my age, I mean, who I really did like, and he didn't play that much, or I didn't hear of him much after, was Marvin Alakatan.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, he was the one guy I had my eye on, if I'm totally honest.
Yeah.
He's the one guy I had my eye on. When I seen him play once, he came up to Birmingham one time, him and Martin Guthrie. I don't know how they rigged it out. They rigged the contest. It was a 3-on-3. There was a contest all around the country. And somehow they came up to ours and they beat us. It was me and two other guys. But I was very, very impressed with him. I was very, very impressed with him. I thought he was a very, very good player. I believe he was younger than me or the same age. And then, my teammates, that we played National League with, I got on the scene early. I was on the scene early. So for me, it was making sure I kept my spot, and kept everybody, making sure I made sure I held my own.
What was the local Birmingham basketball scene like when you were coming through?
Oh, there were so many players. It was great. I mean, at school, we used to go to school, and then after school, we used to have the key to the gym. We used to go after school every single day. I didn't get home until 5 or 6 every day from when I picked up a basketball. And then on Sunday, there was a legendary session that it was called Oakland's, and it was like all the main players were there. So at the time when we grew up, I mean, you had Patrick, who played for Leicester. He was from Birmingham. We had the Maynard brothers. We had, all the older guys, all the pros, or played in the BBL National Leagues. They all used to come, and that was the session. It was a legendary session. Mike Landell was there, Barnes, everybody was there. So, and it was there were a lot of arguments, as you would expect in pickup ball. I'm sure you're aware. It's probably the same down in London. It was legendary for that. Nigel Hansell, it was, Maynards and everything. There was a lot of arguing. But yeah, it was good. And that was like in the summer times. During the season, like I said, we had the bullet structure, under 16s or under 15s, under 17s, under 19s in those days. And it was the best players from in and around Birmingham. We had Spencer Dunkley ahead of us. I had Warren Russell ahead of us. I had Stuart Ruckley, the Ruckley brothers ahead of us. Nick Cook. They were good players. So, we go up to Manchester, you see John Amici, you see Jamie Edwards, you see Pluto, good players. So, yeah, I mean, I grew up seeing the players around me that were older, and I was looking at them, we got to get to that level.
When you look at the Birmingham basketball scene now, how do you compare it to when you were coming up?
It's a lot different. The Birmingham scene, there's like 3, 4, 5 teams, West Midlands teams, National League teams. Whereas back in my day, it was the Bullets. There were other teams. Excel came along. I think there was one other team that came along. But without being horrible, there was space for another team basically, because there was a lot of players that wasn't able to play in that Bullets team. They had an outlet to play, but that didn't really last that long. They came in and then they came out. Here now, it's everybody. There's, like I said, 3, 4 clubs. We're all doing our own thing, and it's just everybody's doing different things.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you feel like it's? I see a lot of players that have come from Birmingham saying that it's so divided. I feel like London has its own issues as well, and people always talk about in London there's too many people doing their own thing and no one's on the same page. But I feel like in my perception of what I see in terms of what people say and what people talk about, Birmingham seems to be the city that hasn't that's almost in a worse situation than London because people haven't been able to work out. There seems to be a lot of politics, like, and all that kind of stuff. Do you think that's fair to say, or would you say that that's wrong?
Look, I mean, it's going, it's happening, all right? Competition isn't bad. Competition is good, you know. When you have competition, some, at the top, some at the bottom, but it's less visible here, because I don't know, how do you rank which team is on the top and which team is on the bottom, without, you're gonna be nitpicking out, haven't you? So it's different. Eventually, hopefully the players don't suffer. Hopefully the players that are supposed to make it. Hopefully they come through. Hopefully we haven't missed anybody just through the politics. So I mean, it can be good, but it is what it is at the moment. It's like you said, it's political. Everybody wants to do their own thing, and that's what's happening.
Yeah, sounds like it's a regular problem in British basketball in general. So I don't think it's necessarily unique to Birmingham either. Okay, so you're playing with the senior team from 16 years old. Did you have it in your mind, I want to get a scholarship to America, that's where I want to go and play? Or was taking the American pathway just something that arose and kind of popped up? Like, how did that fit into everything?
There's a couple of things, really. Yes, I did aspire to be, a college player and then a pro. I was always realistic in myself, knowing that it was always going to be Europe. Maybe I sold myself short a little bit there. But I always wanted to do it. And then once I played for the senior team for Bullets, I started getting more recognition around the country. And Kevin Cade contacted me and informed me, selected me to go on to the Nike All-American camp.
Okay. What, in America, or that was in the UK?
That was in America. It was the Nike camp.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the players, Stefan, Ray Allen was on my team. Antoine Walker was on my team. Jerry Stackhouse was there. Rasheed Wallace. I mean, they're all my age.
Wow.
They're all my age.
So, what, Kevin Cade had to connect? Like, how did he get you into that camp?
Kevin Cade was real good friends with I forget the guy's name, but the head guy for Nike.
Okay.
He was. Do you remember his name?
What, the big boss, Phil Knight?
No, not Phil Knight.
I don't know who it was.
Anyway, yeah. He was good friends with somebody in Nike.
Okay.
And the one that organised the camps, and they wanted to invite international players over.
Yeah.
He recommended me to go over. I think it wasn't just me. Yeah, when I think about it, it was me and Martin.
Martin Hennon?
Martin Godfrey.
Oh, Martin Godfrey. Okay. And
yeah,
so,
me and Martin Godfrey.
What was that like? That must have been an experience.
I mean, that was an experience. I remember Kevin calling me over and saying, "Look, these guys ain't that good. You better get out there and show your stuff." But look at them now. It's probably one of the best classes ever. Ray Allen, Stefan Marbury was there. Stefan was a youngster then. Allen Iverson. I have a story. I tell people that know me. Allen Iverson's renowned to be, he's a hip hop guy. He's a tough guy. So we're in the catering and we're sitting down next to each other. For dinner, for having dinner. And he just comes over and says, "Yo, you stole my cake." He starts, getting at me about I stole his cake.
What?
And I was like, well, "Nah, the cake's right there. This is my cake." And he was like, "Oh, no, I'm just playing. So it's like, it's a different character. So there's a bunch of characters there. Athletically, it was something I've never seen before. That was the first time I was taught to throw an alley-oop. Because we've tried it over in England, but didn't really jump that high, or the floor didn't really help us much. But yeah, I was just throw it up there and they would go get it. So yeah, it was a crazy experience. I loved every second of it. And yeah, you get to really measure your game when you're around the best guys in all of America.
I was going to ask, how did you feel that you measured up? Like, how were you competing on the floor?
I thought I was all right. It was my first year. Like I said, Kevin brought me to the side, so I was within myself a little bit, because like it was a little bit of an adjustment, which is what I try to tell these young guys when you go up to the States. It's like it's different. Yeah, it's different from here. They move different. They play different. You know, so I was a little bit within myself, but eventually gained more confidence and got better. But yeah, as far as measured up, I didn't feel out of place. Not the top guys. We're talking about there's like 100 of us, or you know. So obviously I didn't measure up to Jacques Vaughan and all them was a top point guard at the time, and you could clearly see why they were the best. But then with the other guys, I was all right against them.
And so was it that first led to potential interest from colleges in the States and in terms of bringing you over?
Yeah, it started from there. I think my first letter was from Temple, just out of the blue. I don't think I've even been to the States at that point. So that was, I used to look at that almost every day. That was the start of it. It was like, wow. I got a letter through. I didn't even know about all of that stuff. It just came out of the blue. So yeah, it was fantastic. Yeah.
So how many different schools ended up recruiting you? Kind of who were they, and what was your thought process when it came to like working out where you were going to go and what route you were going to take?
Well, a couple of things happened in between that. Also, the second year there was Nike camp. And then the following year, there was an ABCD camp, not Adidas.
Yeah.
They used to alternate years, all right? So one year was Nike, the other following year was Adidas. So I got invited to go to the Adidas camp as well. I was a lot different there. I was way more comfortable there. And then the recruiting started from that. My team, I think we won the championship of the tournament. So, yeah, I was a lot more comfortable the second time around. And then I went to JUCO for a year.
Yeah.
Missed one of my grades. So, guys, it's very important to keep your grades up because you're going to have to do it either way. So, science wasn't my best class at the time. So, I had to go JUCO. But I fast-tracked during JUCO. I took a bunch of hours and graduated in 3 semesters rather than 4.
Right. I was going to say, so you went to Lincoln. Was that set up because obviously afterwards you ended up going to Illinois State, right? Was it a case of Illinois State kind of they had already offered you had accepted, and you were like, okay, well, to get academically eligible, I need to go to JUCO for a year, and that was sort of organised through them, or was it, or had they not offered yet, and you went to JUCO for a year, and then the offer came in? Like, kind of how did that work?
Yeah, well, the offer came in when the story about Illinois State. My first season, I believe, King Rice came over from North Carolina. Steve Bucknam's teammates. Steve and King were teammates. He came and played for Bullets for, I think, half a season. And then he went back to America and became a coach. And the second year when I was at ABCD, he was at Illinois State. So then he was recruiting me hard from then. And because I knew King, he was my teammate here, and I remember watching him on TV. It was one of the first games to watch, NC State against North Carolina. So I had a little bit of affinity towards him. So, if he says he was at a school, Div 1, mid-major, they wanted me, okay, I'll go. So, yeah, Illinois State then created the link after, because of my science, to go to JUCO. And then the arrangement was, my coach speaking to me and telling me, listen, you're going to have to fast track this. You're going to have to do a bunch of hours. I was capable of doing it. It was just, a lack of concentration in one particular lesson.
Mm-hmm.
So, I was capable of doing it. And then, that's what happened. They linked the Lincoln College situation together.
Was there any potential problem? Because clearly you've made your senior debut. For Americans looking in, it's like, oh, you're playing pro over here. Was there any potential eligibility issues with you having played for a professional team in England before going to the States?
Yeah, there was, but I mean, I was only getting expenses, so that's what we explained, to the college and to NCAA. That it was only expenses, and it really was. I mean, it was hardly any money I was getting. It was literally pocket money.
Yeah.
You remember, I was only 16, 17. So it didn't qualify as being professional.
Okay, cool. So that moving away from home and sort of moving permanently over to the US, kind of how did you find that? Was that a difficult transition, or was it something that actually you were quite comfortable with?
Remember, I've been back and forth from about 17, to those various camps, and there was also another game that we played in Chicago, with the rest of the world against the USA. I played in that game as well.
Oh, is that the Hoop Summit? It's like the Hoop Summit.
Sorry?
Is that called the Hoop Summit, Nike Hoop Summit?
Yeah, it's called that now, but I played in the very first one. I remember, I played in the very first one.
So who was playing? Who was playing in that game? That must have been some names in that one, surely.
Yeah, Stefan Marbury, Trajan Langdon, Shamaki Walker, Lorenzen Wright.
Yeah. Wow.
A bunch of players. So we did all that, and then the recruiting got from there. Yeah.
And moving to the US was all right because you'd spent a lot of time.
US. Yeah, because I've done all that. So by the time it came to moving over, I was so excited. I knew a bit about the culture. I knew what to expect a little bit. It was quite an easy transition for me, really.
How did you do on the court that year with Lincoln?
Did well. We got knocked out in the first round of the playoffs, which was an underachievement as a team. But personally, I had an okay season. I think I averaged 13 points, 14 points. I had a decent season.
Did you have any interest from any other schools after your year at JUCO that kind of made you think, oh, maybe I should go somewhere else, or were you committed to Illinois State? Like, what happened after that?
Yeah, my head almost got spun a bit. Washington was coming in hard for me, then Dayton. Washington obviously was in the Pac-10 at the time, so that was an appeal, and Dayton was in Atlantic 10 as well. Those two came in hard. I did think about it. It did turn my head a little bit, because it's always nice with the attention, but I had already committed. This was in my third semester, because you get a JUCO this whole season, so you're going to be recruited all year.
Yeah.
So I wanted to be loyal and stick to my word. I said I was going to Illinois State, so I just followed it through.
So then, stepping onto Illinois State campus, kind of how did you find, I guess, the transition from junior college to Division I basketball? What were the differences, and how did you personally find it?
Intensity. The biggest difference. Yeah, I mean, and when I say intensity, it's everything from the pickup games, in a weightlifting room, the coaching, absolutely everything was, you've got to raise that bar another level again, just to swim, it was good though, because, to play hard, is the best way to play. It's the most you get out of it. I don't know. It's just more fun when you play in the best, because when you succeed, it feels better. When you don't succeed, you just got to work a little bit harder. So that was my mentality towards it. But that transition was, it was just getting used to or raising my level. So I could be one of the bunch rather than being the bottom of the pile.
there's obviously a lot of stories always go around of kind of like particularly difficult practices at college and stuff like that. Are there any, conditioning sessions or practice sessions that stick out in your mind that you're just like, that was just unbelievable and you can't even believe that you sort of put yourself through it? You had to go through it at the time, looking back on.
Oh, where do I start? There's a few. I could start with JUCO. Very first practice was at 6 a.m. Conditioning. We had to do a mile in 6 minutes. All right. So we had to do the lamppost right down there and back. So I'm doing it, and we're all doing it. We're all going hard, and I hear him counting it down. It's like 5, 4, 3, for the times, and I crossed the line like a second or two after, and like I'm going all at it now. This is the end. I'm sprinting. I'm hearing him, so I'm putting my all, and I crossed the line a second and a half after time. Now I'm thinking, I'm the new guy, I'm a starting 5 guy, so come on, coach, say, nope, do it again. Had a little, 10-minute break, and I had to do it again. So there's one. That was like, welcome to basketball in America.
Yeah. But
then in Illinois State, again, it goes up a notch. Well, in JUCO, same thing. JUCO. Remember coach putting the 2 bins in each corner of the court? He's just mad for no reason. I don't know. He's just coming there mad for no reason. And he tells everybody, he's like, okay, somebody's going to quit today and somebody's going to throw up today. That's okay, let's get practice going. That's what he tells us. This is also preseason. Because what I guess his philosophy was to wean out the guys or the walk-ons that can't really stomach this. So he used to wean them out real quick. And sure enough, 1 or 2 guys used to quit every time he did that because he was just up and down, up and down, up and down. But the most brutal practice that I can remember, a couple guys missed class today. So practice, and coach called wind before practice. Now every practice we used to have in the locker room, he used to pin up what the practice plan was. So, you're getting changed. Before you get changed, you look up there, you know what's going on. So if it's a beat-down practice, what we used to say, or a regular practice. So in this practice now, we could read that it was a beat-down because it was just full court, 1-on-1, 2-on-2. Everything was full court. Absolutely everything was full court, 100% for 2 hours. So we did that, which was already brutal. But then after, we had a running series, sprinting series, where you got 22, which is 4 times up and down, 33, 6, 44, 8, 55, 10, right? So he says, you do a full set, you go home. Yeah, when you do a full set, you go home. So he's there, boom, 22, done. And this is like everybody's got to cross the line. Big, fat, small, doesn't matter. All right? You've all got to make it. This is the rule that we always ran with. So 22, we did it. 33, we did it. 44, we just about did it. Now, that's when the guards started getting nervous because we knew the bigs weren't going to make this 55. I mean, we used to throw them across the line and things like that. Get in each other's faces, like, you better make this, stop being, soft, but obviously harsher words, these type of things that you used to do. We got to make this. So obviously we didn't make the 55. So, but coach had a thing where the good things that you did during practice on games, you get plus points. So your plus points would add up all throughout the year. So everybody had bunches of plus points. Obviously the people that played more had more than others. But the walk-on didn't have any. One particular walk-on didn't have any. Now, we've already had a 2-hour practice, right? And then we've got to do this set. We don't make the set until 1 minute 35 because he puts it up 5 seconds or so each time. During the whole time, we could say, put our hands up every so often, not 2 back-to-back. We put our hands up and take a break. One guy didn't have any plus points, so he had to do the whole thing. So every single sprint. The end of the practice, he fell asleep in the locker room. We didn't move. The big fella had to be taken to the hospital because he ended up looking like Skeletor. Yeah, he was sucked. He had to be on the drip. Everybody else was just tiptoeing home. It was the most brutal practice in our history.
Legendary. So obviously from there, when you at Illinois State, so you went to the NCAA tournament twice, right? Was that in your final 2 years? Was that in your junior year and your senior year? Am I right?
Yeah.
Kind of what are your memories of those two? Because I think that was actually, I did some brief research quickly, and I think that's actually still the last time the Illinois State have been to the tournament. So however many years ago that was, a long time ago. But kind of what are your memories of both of the tournament runs? Obviously, first time realizing you're in the tournament and you made it, and kind of the feelings around it, and then kind of walk us through kind of what happened.
Well, the previous year, we almost made it to Madison Square Garden. We got beat by Tulane in Tulane. I had a bad game that game, so that's why I remember it. It's probably a big reason why we lost that game. I had a particularly bad game that game. But so the following year, we finished second in the conference that year. With the NIT, and then in my junior and senior year, we won the league. We won our conference and we won the tournament. So we were kind of prepared for it in a sense because we did the NIT and we got pretty far. So we knew we were a good, solid team, and we're the underdog type of team. So we've got something to prove when it comes to that stage. The first year, we fell short. We put Kevin Cade into the league because he had a phenomenal game against us. Our game literally put him into the league.
Really?
I think he had a quadruple double. He had like 10 blocks. Or a triple double with 10 blocks. It was ridiculous. He had a ridiculous game, dunking everything. It was a little bit too much for us. So we lost that, and they had a good two guard. I forget his name, but I think he also went to the league for a little bit.
What year was it that you were the conference sixth man of the year? Was that in your junior year or your senior year?
It was that year, yeah.
It was that year, okay.
Yeah, junior year. So, and then, so the next year we won it again, the league and the tournament. We were ready. And we were down two of our starters as well. We lost our starter in the first round of the tournament. I started shooting guard. I was sixth man that year. Yeah, I started some games, but I was still sixth man. So I started shooting guard, got hurt. He broke his fibula. And so I had to come in and start at the two. And this is my senior year. And then we win the tournament. And then we go into the NCAA game. And the starting point guard pulls his back. So now I have to move from the two to the one. Preparing all week, mentally and everything, playing the two to do a job there. And then with 30 minutes to go in the game, for the start of the game, our point guard pulls out, so I have to shift over to the one. So, like I said, from the NIT and then losing against Iowa State, by the time we got to Tennessee, all of us, our main players, were all seniors or juniors. I think we had five seniors, 6 seniors at the time. We were totally in tune with each other, with our system. We were prepared in tournament scenarios, away games, winning away games. We were just ready, even though we were 2 players down. So that's how drilled and ready we were as a group.
So that game against Tennessee, you obviously won in overtime, 1-1. I think, if I'm right.
Yeah.
What are your memories of that game? Like, I did look up the box score. You finished with 16 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists in 41 minutes. Didn't miss a shot. I would guess that's probably the best game of your college career, based on it being the stage that it was on and doing it in there. Kind of like, what are your memories of that game and kind of your own sort of individual performance as well?
My performance, I had a good game. I was locked in. It was the pinnacle, like you said. I was a senior. It was all out. It was gonna go home. The way the game was, it was strange. I mean, I watched it a few times. My job, running that system was always to control the tempo, run the offense. And I was never really pushed or even within myself to be a main scorer, even though I may have had some skills where I could have contributed a little bit more. But that game there, everything just fell into place. It was knowing where to be, knowing where to pass, knowing where to shoot, being aggressive at the right times. The timing, everything just came into play in that one game. We also had, and it wasn't just me. 3 or 4 of us had very good solid games, and then the others, even if with me and myself included, even if we wasn't necessarily playing that well offensively, we wouldn't turn over the ball or we played good defense to contribute to the win. So it was a real team effort, but yeah, for me it was just being intense, knowing it was my last game. I remember I had a breakaway dunk and I really dunked in the game and I hammered it with 2 hands. It was just, when you're at the top, you've got to bring it. You just got to bring it. And that day, I brought it, I had the time, and yeah, it turned out to be a great game for me.
Were you guys expected to win that game?
I think it was an 8-9 seed.
Okay.
So, we all know that's going to be a battle.
Yeah.
It's 2 tough teams, We were on the verge of being a top 25 team in our senior year. We lost against Northern Iowa in one of our conference games. If we'd have won that game, we'd have been top 25 that week. The highest we got, I think, was 27th in the nation. So we knew we were a good team, and obviously they're an ACC team, so SEC team, sorry. So obviously, they're going to be bigger, more athletic, stronger, as you would expect from an SEC team and a mid-major team. But not just us, obviously NCAA know what they're doing. By seeding us 8 and 9, that's what it turned out to be, a 1-point game.
Yeah. So you advanced, and obviously then there you played Arizona and suffered a pretty heavy loss. Like, kind of, what were your memories of that game, and how difficult was it for you to kind of, I guess, end your college career with a tough defeat like that?
Well, for me personally, during the Tennessee game, I remember breaking it. We broke the press, and I was coming up, and I went for a dunk after the break, and their intimidating center came and just clobbered me out the air, and it landed hard on my wrist. So my wrist was like, I couldn't practice. The next time I played, it was next time I couldn't practice the next day. I had to get strapped up and everything. But the first half of that Arizona game, I believe it was a 1-point game or a 3-point game. We were in the game. But then, they had Miles Simon and Mike Bibby and Dickinson, and they were the defending national champions at the time. They all came back for the next year, try to defend their championship. So the second half was a slightly different story. For us, it was 1 game too many. We didn't have 2 of our main guys. It was just, and then it just all came crashing down in the second half. And yeah, it was an emotional time at the end because we achieved so much, all together. We were a tight bunch. I'm still in contact with a few of the guys now. We're champions back to back. As he says now, we're Illinois State's last champion. So yeah, it was tough, but it's the same with every player, every college player that plays NCAA basketball. Your last game, it's like, this is over. I lived the dream for a little bit, and now it's over. So yeah, it was sad, but it's one of the things.
So what was your process for turning pro at that point? Did you know, I'm going to pursue a professional career, I don't know whether you sign with an agent or, you thinking I need to find a look in Europe, kind of what was the actual process after finishing college to then actually becoming a professional basketball player?
Straight after that Arizona game, an agent was in my room that evening. And it started from there. I didn't sign with that particular agent at that time because, like I said, it was right after that game. It was like literally I was getting changed, door knocked. But then when I went back to school, my coach came to me and asked me what I wanted to do. And I told him what I wanted to do. I wanted to play in Europe, and his good friend is a top agent in America, and their agency covers Europe and the top league and good players in Europe. So he put me onto them, and then you just immediately. As soon as I says, I want to play in Europe, within 2 weeks, I was on a plane going to Italy.
So I'm trying to work out the timeline. So you graduated from Illinois State in 98, right? So then,
yeah.
And then you were with Bologna in Italy, was the first team that you signed with in your rookie year. Is that correct? Was that 98, 99, or was that you tagged on for the end of the 97, 98 season?
It was literally 2 or 3 weeks, 2 weeks after that Arizona lost.
Yeah.
I was in Bologna.
Okay. So you joined them for the end of the 97, 98 season, or had their season finished?
What happened, Antoine Rigaudot got injured, the French point guard. He got injured, and they needed a replacement just before playoffs and for the first part of the playoffs. So I was brought over there to replace him until, not necessarily with the minutes and stuff, but to be a point guard within the club until he regained fitness. So when I came in, they literally just beat 42 though in the semi-finals of the EuroLeague. And I arrived the next day. And then, we were preparing for the playoffs, the Italian championship playoffs.
Yeah.
And I think we played Varese in the first round, and I played well in that round. I got minutes in that round because Anton was still on recovery.
Yeah.
I got minutes in that round. I think there's one particular game where I played well. And then he came back. And then, he carried on and won the championship for him.
But you were with the team when they won the EuroLeague title, right? So you've got a EuroLeague title.
I wasn't on the roster.
Right. But you were with the team, right? Were you with the team?
I was with the team. I was with the team. I helped prepare. I was the other guy in practice. The other team. When we were preparing for the games.
Yeah.
But because I'd flown in, they've just won the semi-final the day before I arrived.
Yeah.
So it was impossible for me to be on a roster. But,
that's just a pretty amazing experience to go from to literally go from your college senior year and then being thrown in at the deep end in Italy. Kind of, what was the contract that you'd signed with them? Was that going over until the next season as well? Was it just until the end of that season to be with them?
It was just, like I said, it was just until the end of that season. It was just, I was there as cover.
Right. Okay.
We're talking about, they were the biggest team in Europe at the time.
Yeah.
So that was nothing for them.
And for context, back at this sort of era, the late 90s, Italy was pretty much considered the best league outside of the NBA, right?
Yeah, Italy, Spain, Greece. But yeah, Italy was tough. I mean, Sasha Danilovic was my teammate, and he had just come off that Miami Heat team, I think. Or I'm not sure if that was his last team that he played on, but he left the NBA and came back and was Mr. Basketball in Europe, best player in Europe when he came back.
So how did you find that first taste of European pro experience outside of England? It must have been pretty crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. Again, having to adapt to another culture. way different from England and America in its own right. The basketball culture, getting used to that, getting used to the different footwork that you had to learn, because you can't play the same way here and in America like you can in Europe. It's slightly the a little bit more stingy on the rules on that first step. So you've got to put the ball down. So you have to learn that, because everybody gets called for travel, all the foreign players, until they get used to it. Like I said, Messina was the coach, and he's just like, he's like an engineer. He's fine tuning things, and it was great to work under him, just to see how he worked. His professionalism, just how these little tweaks made big differences. So yeah, it was great. The crowd, truly understanding how much basketball meant to the Italians, which you wouldn't know until you go over there and see it. I mean, they absolutely love it. And being in that football type of environment indoors, and being on that floor again, it was different from America, because the atmosphere is slightly different. The crowds in Europe are way more involved. The singing, the chanting, they're going crazy. In America, it's like cheering for, so it's slightly different again. So yeah, it was great. It was great. I mean, going there to win the championship, and the crowd flooding the court, and I thought it was cool to party with them, until I realized, well, I need to get out of here. They're ripping my clothes. I was trying to get my jersey and my shorts, and I need to get out of here. So yeah, it was a crazy experience.
So what happened after that? So you were there at the end of the season. Did you come back to the UK for the summer to do workouts and stuff like that? Because obviously the next season you ended up staying in Italy, right? But kind of what did you do that immediate summer afterwards?
The summer, I came home. Remember, I just finished with uni.
Yeah.
And then I went straight to Italy. So I came home, relaxed here for a bit, and went to the track, went to the local gym, got shots up every single day, went to the track, stayed in shape till that call came for me to go back to work.
So your first, your first full rookie year, your first full season, I guess, as a pro. Kind of how was that? How did that go in Italy? Kind of what role were you playing? And how did you find sort of, I guess, professional basketball?
The only difference between college basketball and pro basketball is you don't have class in pro. Pretty much everything else is the same. It's real preparation for the pro game, going to college, because you're working at a high level. You've got strength and conditioning coaches. Obviously, the basketball is at a high level. The coaching is at a high level. So going into Europe, it was very, very similar. So the first year, I was young, fresh. I was at Verona first. It started off a little bit slow there. The team was there was a lot of changes within the team. The management was a bit crazy. They used to come into the changing rooms after halftime, and it was a lot of craziness going on there. So then mid-season, I got transferred to Pistoia, and it was like I was the main guy there. I was one of the main guys there. Yeah, I had a good season there. I did pretty well. I averaged about, I think, 11, something like that, 11, 12. So yeah, it was okay. It was good. I had a good year.
Did you prefer playing on the continent? Was there any part of you that wanted to be back home in Birmingham, playing in the BBL or wherever, or were you more than happy to be abroad?
I was more than happy to be abroad, to be honest. I was playing in the top leagues over there, so
yeah.
What my agent was telling me that they was willing to pay me over there, we knew that it wasn't on the same level, in England. Still had a good relationship with the owner of Birmingham Basketball at the time, Harry Blesky. He spoke to me and we had a little chat about it, but I mean,
financially, it makes no sense.
Financially, it didn't make any sense whatsoever. There wasn't much to think about there, to be honest.
So, because you did end up playing a few games in Birmingham at one point, right? At one point, when was that? It was a little bit later, right?
I got injured. I tore my Achilles.
Yeah.
In when I was in Greece, my second stint in Greece. During that rehab time, I went back to Illinois State to do a little bit of rehab. Did some rehab in Greece, and then did some rehab in Illinois State. And then came home, and then I was fit right about August, September, that area.
Yeah.
So then at the time, I think Tony Gabaletta was the coach, and the agreement was for me to play until or if something else came along. So, I think I played one game or two games. I think it was just two stints there that I did that. There was one time when I had the Achilles, when I tore my Achilles.
Yeah. And
another time when I was, later on in my career when I was waiting to hear what was going on in Europe to get a contract from Europe. So I played a few games with Bullets then as well.
Did you ever play any games with Brighton Bears? I did dig up an article saying that you were signed with Brighton Bears. And because, again, it was the same sort of similar situation where while you were waiting for an offer to come in.
Yeah, that was, when it got to those stages and later on in my career where the offers were coming a little bit slower from Europe after my injury, because, Achilles is a big injury.
Yeah.
So, it took a while for me to get back to decent speed after that. But yeah, it was weird in England. It was just different.
You didn't like it?
It's not that I didn't like it. It was just, when I was in Brighton, it was just very, very laid back. Nothing concrete was sorted out. So I came down to try and sort it out, and it was still very, very laid back. I ended up playing a game, and it was just, I don't know what was going on there, to be honest. I think I spoke to another club, and then I think I just asked a simple question as, did I have any funds, available? And that scared them off. I was like, well, I was only asking. I didn't put a number to it. Yeah. So I don't know. It was just like, I did a stint with Brighton, but that was a different situation. And then the Bullet situations, after I played a game or two, I had another contract.
Yeah. So after your sort of first full rookie season in Italy, that was when you then signed with Ike, which is where you again experienced a fair amount of success. Can you kind of talk about your time with the Greek side, the season that you had, and obviously also making the EuroLeague? It was the Final Four, obviously, but that was actually before it became a Final Four format. It was like the semi-finals, right? It was like a 5-game series, I think. But yeah, can you kind of recap us kind of what happened in Greece? How you found Greece compared to Italy, and the success you experienced there.
Yeah, Greece is a different animal. Basketball there is way more physical. The ownership is a little crazier. In Italy, it was crazy. Like I said, in Italy, we had owners coming down at halftime and kicking and banging doors and breaking watches and stuff. So Greece, the fans would do a lot of that. The fans could get crazy. I remember, some unpleasant times with a few fans. But Ike, we had the legendary Dusan Ivkovic as our coach. So it all centered around him. And he was good. It was good. Practices were good, tough. The league was good and tough. It was a great time there. We were in the Supporter Cup. Again, it was the coach. The coach just knew how to get the wins, knew how to stop the opposition. And we played Kinder in our first Supporter Cup final. My old team, my old coach. We won, which we were the underdogs. to do that as well.
The supporter cup was what? What was the format of that competition?
I remember now. I was trying to think of that the other day because it was like, how can I describe that now? Because the second year we won the supporter cup. I think it was we won that once. I guess it was like the UEFA Cup compared to the Champions League.
Right.
So my first it was a second cup competition rather than the Champions League.
Okay.
Or the Euroleague, sorry.
So you won the supporter cup, and then the run to the Euroleague Final Four. Kind of what are your memories of that?
I think memories of that. I remember playing against Dino Raja, and it was a tough game. Very tough game because we had to stop him. Out there in Croatia, I believe. I remember Tal Gress. Tal Gress was a legendary game. I believe it's the only game that's ever had to be replayed.
What happened?
Our crowd was. It was a home game for us, so it was in Awaka. Crowd was particularly loud that day. It was a particularly robust. A lot of people was there that day, and we were losing by 1, and we shot the ball, but because it was so loud, the buzzer went, but my teammate caught the ball and put it in, and the referees counted basket good. But because it was so loud, there was confusion. I've never seen this before. For me, it seemed like it was late anyway. And when you saw the footage, it was like 2 or 3 seconds after the horn was gone, and the basket was still good. So because it was that flagrant, we had to replay the game, and that was a semi-final, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was there any times with the fans that you actually felt like you were in danger?
In Greece?
Yeah. Well, or anywhere, I guess. But Greece are notorious.
In Greece, there was one time, one game we played Olympiacos at home. Again, this was the playoffs. Again, we had a lot of fans. And it was very loud in there. And I think Anthony Bowie and I forget the other guy's name. He was another American ex-NBA player as well. But it was a 50-50 ball. And Anthony had his hands on there. And he's an experience. When you play in Greece for a while, you have to get used to the refereeing over there because depending who refereeing, depending if you're home and away, you have to be extremely careful. So he was being careful and he took his hands away and the referee called a foul. When he called that foul, I think there was like 45 seconds left in the game, but we were still in the game at that point. I think it was still a 1-possession game. When he called that foul, the gym absolutely erupted. Absolutely erupted. They were throwing everything they could get their hands on. They was ripping the seats, throwing that. I saw batteries. Back then we had the big, batteries were big and thick. Those were thrown. I even saw a faucet on there get thrown. But it wasn't thrown at us. It was thrown at the Olympiacos and the officials. So although it was crazy in the gym, it was our fans, so it was thrown away from our dugout. So, but yeah, that game got stopped for about 45 minutes or so. I mean, they even set a fire in the back. They lit the place alight. So, yeah, we got banned for about 7 games. We had to play without fans.
Oh, wow. So you played without fans for 7 games?
I think so. I can't remember the amount of games, but the start of the season, the following season, I remember playing without fans.
Wow. Well, what was it like off the court? Like, obviously that team is such a big part of culture there. Like, for you walking around town, if you wanted to go and get some food or go out, like, was it very much, were you a sort of local celebrity? Did you have people come up to you all the time? Kind of, what was it like off the court?
You wouldn't get people coming up to you all the time. You wouldn't get that. But when it came to bars and restaurants, yeah, you getting a seat quick, you're getting in immediately.
Yeah.
So yeah, you would get that star treatment at restaurants and at bars. Some restaurants, not all. If you made yourself known and knew who you was, then yeah, you would get that treatment. But yeah, a little bit, but not so much on the street though.
So after your years there, then you went to Spain. What were your memories of Spain, and how did you find playing in the ACB?
ACB is a good league. It's probably the most professional league I played in Europe. Unfortunately, it was probably the toughest year of my career. It was just it's the only time I could say in my whole career that me and the coach didn't quite see eye to eye. So it was it was a long season that season, and we worked extremely hard, fitness-wise, which probably overworked us, which is why we probably should have been a better team than what we ended up being. But the league in itself was a very, very, very good league. Very good league.
How would you compare it in terms of standard to Greece and Italy?
It's similar. With Greece, you could say the top 4 teams have a good standard. Drops off a bit with the second tier, and then again for the third, for the bottom tier. Italy, the drop wasn't so significant in the league. It was more of a balanced league. But Spain was balanced throughout. Every game was a tough game. Every team was well run. Very similar to Italy, but I would say on a whole, slightly better. But when it came to the top 4 teams, they were all very, very similar. So there was nothing between them.
All right. I'm aware of time, so I do. I don't want to just ignore the rest of your pro career, but I do want to get onto sort of your international career, representing England and obviously Great Britain. Kind of when you look back on your international career, what are the standout moments and memories that you have that I guess mean the most to you?
I mean, we had fun. We made good of bad situations at times. We had long travel, and we wasn't getting paid a lot of money, hardly anything. I'm not sure if you heard Laszlo's podcast the other day, but he was spot on, really. I mean, he was looking after us, and we had a good bond that way. We had a good time. Playing wise, my first game in the Commonwealth Games, I guess, was a standout. Malaysia. I was 17. And we lost to Canada, I believe, in the final, if my memory serves me correctly. So yeah, that was a good time. It was my first cap, and just meeting up. And we played Italy a few times, and Latvia. I remember that win was a big win for us at home. So yeah, it was just the team changed a lot, but there's a core of us that remained. But there was a lot of faces that came in that came in and out.
Who was that core?
I would say Dalmy, Harriman, Andy Betts, Steve Bucknell before, when I was just coming into the team, Steve Bucknell, Martin Hanlon, Roger Huggins, Ronnie Baker, mainstays. Those guys were always there.
Would you guys stay in touch with each other during the season, like when you go back to your club sides?
In the summertime, more so, not during the season.
Yeah.
We'll probably, I used to go up to see Dalmy and Yorick up in Manchester in the summertime. But yeah, it was more of a summer thing where we kept in contact, and whenever we met up during the season, we were all busy, getting on with our seasons and our families and whatever.
And then when it comes to GB, like I didn't realise that you were involved with I think 2006. I'm pretty sure was the first year of the sort of the reincarnation of the GB program that obviously ended up ultimately becoming the team that was going to compete at London 2012. So that sort of time period. What do you remember about the early years of the Great Britain program? Kind of the first call that told you that there was a Great Britain team being formed, and how was it kind of being involved with that team?
Yeah, it changed dramatically. I mean, I remember being in Florida at some beautiful suites for practice. Obviously Llewellyn Deng was on the team then, and there was a drive to qualify to be in the Olympics. Even though we hosted the Olympics, we still had to finish at a certain level to be able to perform at the Olympics. So we saw the difference in the input that the governing bodies put in, the finances that they put into us. Our quality of stay was good, our travel was good, preparation stepped up to a more professional level. So there was a definite difference leading up to the Olympics.
And how was it to be around those guys and sort of coming together? Did you feel at the time that kind of like you were a part of the start of a new era or kind of history in the making?
Really, I mean, I was the old guy by then.
Yeah.
It was just, like I said, it was for me, it was just get out there and play and start winning some games. At least I thought we was going to win more games. The concentration, the professionalism would allow us to win more games. So that's what was exciting about that. Obviously, having Llewellyn being in the NBA and playing, which was exciting, and you could see NBA level close up, which was evident. So that was good. Practices were good. It was a good level. So yeah, in that regard, yeah, it was good to be around, a Llewellyn and Amici before that, even Steve, but during those days with Steve and Amici, we were England and it was a totally different story.
Well, are there any? So if there was 2006, so Llewellyn was drafted in 2004, I think. So he'd have been 2 years into his NBA career. Kind of, looking at him then as a 21-year-old-ish, I guess, around then. How evident was his talent level? Kind of, are there any stories that stick out from practice or anything like that?
Well, yeah, I remember. You could see his movement. He was sharp. When he saw the opportunity, he didn't blink. He just took it. He was clinical when he got the opportunity to finish, and that's pro level. I mean, we were all pros there anyway, but there's different levels, to our games, and seeing him play, it was just efficiency, and that's what it was all about with him. And the story. Well, I remember, Andy was, me and Andy roomed, and he noted after about a week or so, he was like, I don't know how long it was, but he says, do you know that Llewellyn hasn't lost a game in practice? I thought, and I was like, you know what? You're right. He hasn't. So the next day, he and Llewellyn was on the same team. I said, he's going to lose a game today. We're going to lose today, Andy. So, I got my guys to give him like, we got to go. I didn't tell them what was going on. I think I did. I was like, listen, this guy hasn't lost a game since practice has started, since whole training camp. We've got to make that happen right now. So we went out there and we balled out and we won that game. And I remember chasing Andy. He wouldn't want to look at me. He was, when I was walking to him, he was running around the gym. So, yeah, with him, he was dominant in practice. I mean, his team won every game. Again, because he was just so efficient. He would shake you with, his movement off the ball was great. He's moving at speed with intensity, and then it's catch and shoot or catch, chuck, make one dribble and finish. You could see the difference in levels.
So When it started coming towards the end of your career, what made you make the decision to ultimately hang them up?
After my injury, it slowed down a bit. Mm-hmm. Everything slowed down. Maybe my performance wasn't as high, and the offers, started dwindling a little bit. The phone wasn't ringing off the hook from England, so it was just a time. When I look back, I probably gave up a year or two too soon. I probably could have worked harder, but from playing, with the men's level from 16 years old, maybe I got burnt out a bit at the end. Where my body just couldn't give what I wanted it to give, and me enjoying it at the same time. So I think when I started questioning whether I wanted to go back overseas, whether I wanted to get up and go to practice, that's when I decided.
How did you find that transition from being a professional basketball player to all of a sudden, not playing that game every day and having all the practices and, working towards game on the weekends or whatever it is? Like, how did you find the transition into your post playing career?
It was tough. It wasn't easy. Yeah, it wasn't easy at all. You got to find a new way. You're in your 30s and your late 30s. You've never been in the corporate world, and you got to find your way. This is where education now falls back into place. But that's some way, somehow, you've got to carve out a new life. It was daunting. It was a tough transition because you've got to learn new skills. What new skills do you have to learn? So you go through bumps and bruises before, you settle in and you find a place.
Do you think you'd spent a lot of time thinking about what you wanted to do after you finished playing, or was it something you really hadn't thought about until you finished and you're like, oh, I've kind of got to work out what I'm doing now?
It was the reality was, well, what do you do? You have to think about, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And then when that time comes, you got to try and do it. And sometimes it doesn't work out, and then you try something else, So it's just a big learning curve after playing.
Did you know that you wanted to go into coaching?
Yeah, in a sense, yes. Like we said at the beginning, basketball is a drug. And, to be honest, just before I was finishing anyway, that's when the club started. The club started, and I had a conversation with Nigel. He flew out to Italy, and we sat down and we was having a chat. And he told me he was going to start the club. And at first I thought, we're ballers. I mean, what are you talking about? But then he stopped playing earlier and was learning off Harry. And he also, went to Lauren and everything. So when he told me that, and then I sat down and I thought about it, I said, yeah, it's a great idea. Go for it. And then, I was the director of the club from the very beginning. So,
and it was Birmingham A's right at that point.
Yeah, that was Birmingham A's. So when I finished ball, it was like, I kidded up a little bit and kidded up more in training than in games. And once I started playing, I didn't really want to play in Division 2.
Yeah.
I'd rather help the other guys win in that level and just help out whenever I can. But I didn't want to take any minutes from the other guys in a sense, So yeah, it was immediate really that, I just wanted to help, and especially, it was my club, so definitely I was going to help.
So, was Miles Hessen the first player to really come out of the program?
Birmingham A's?
Yeah.
I would believe so.
Yeah. What were your early memories of him as a youngster?
I remember coming in one summer when I think I've just committed to coaching the team.
Yeah.
When I as a head coach, and we had some summer sessions on, And Nigel invited all, the young lads to the session. And I was going there, and I was still shooting and playing I was only just stopped playing not too long ago. But I've seen him playing, and he moved different from everybody else. He found ways to score around the basket different from everybody else. Now, at this time, I think it was my second year with them, your eyes get used to what you see, but then you also know what you're used to seeing elsewhere with other style of players and other players. So then when you see a player that's doing these type of things, it's clear, So his talent stood out to me a mile off, but nobody knew who he was. I was shocked. I was totally shocked that nobody knew who this kid was, because he was 17 at the time, I think. So I snapped him up immediately and just started, boom, just straight into it, teaching the stuff. He told me he was into it. He told me he wanted to get better. He wanted to be a pro. So I was like, let's get to it then. And just got started getting to work.
When you look at sort of where he's come from and sort of what he's doing now, how does that make you feel when you see the success that he's gone on to have?
Obviously, great joy. It's a fantastic story for me personally, and to watch him doing what he's doing is great. Because, like I said, he was in the wilderness. He was just another kid, but to me, it was like, that's a talented kid right there. Ooh, what's going on here? What, you lot don't see this? So yeah, when I've seen him doing what he's doing now, yeah, I'm very, very, very proud. Very proud to see him. I mean, captain of Great Britain, yeah, I'm very proud.
I mean, he's an interesting case study because in the time that I've been covering the sport anyway, I'm pretty sure he's the only guy that hasn't gone abroad, stayed in the UK through his entire sort of, I guess, early years of development, played in the BBL, and then gone on to play at a higher level. Do you think that's potentially going to be a route that more players can take in the future? Or would you still say that, there's been a lot of talk at the moment about sort of the pathway and stuff like that? Or do you still think that for most guys, going the US college route is the best option?
He proved that you can do it. I mean, I wanted him to do what I did. But because I caught him late, and when it was evident he was going to be the player that, behind the talent, it was a little bit late to start negotiating with the States, because nobody knew he was only playing National League Division 2. So it needed, it could have happened, but I don't think he was comfortable with the lack of organization behind it. So, he took the European route, and he proved that it can work. I mean, I always told him, I said, if you're going to do this route, you're going to have to, kill. You have to have great stats at the end of the year because you're playing at that level, so you have to, if you want to play in Europe at the top leagues, these leagues, you have to show everybody what you're capable of doing. And he did.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it proves that it can be done, that you don't have to go to the United States, right? But I believe, I alluded to it earlier, it prepares you to be a pro. Yeah, and I think it's very, very much respected in Europe if you go that route. If you go that route, you're at a Division 1 school, and you've represented yourself well over there. It is a smooth transition into Europe. Whereas if you go the route that Miles went, it's more pressure on you in a sense.
To prove yourself.
The pressure for the person coming from the States, you've gone that pressure. You've gone through that pressure to get the scholarship.
Yeah.
Now it's your job to keep that scholarship, which is an element of pressure. But then if you complete those 4 years, you've come back with a certain pedigree behind you. Yeah. Whereas if you do it in Europe, you've got to build it up, and you're not hiding away over there where they hardly see you or they see you on TV. When you're over here, they always see you. There's more up, the closer eyes are on you. So that can work for you or against you, and it worked for him.
On the topic of giving guys the option to stay at home rather than going abroad and stuff, the BBL and Birmingham has been an often spoken about topic. Obviously, the league's made it clear that they would love a franchise in Birmingham. We've seen a couple of attempts in recent years to try and make it happen. Obviously, it hasn't happened. Do you think that we could see a BBL franchise in Birmingham in the future? Is it something that you've ever thought about doing? What's your thoughts about sort of bringing professional basketball back to Birmingham?
It needs to happen, but when or if it does happen, it needs to be done correctly. The last 2 times it was attempted, it didn't really last. I think both teams lasted a year, or was it 2 years?
Yeah, it wasn't long, wherever it was.
I think both teams lasted a year. I mean, listen, we all want it. We all want it back. We all want the old days where we're all, rooting for the same team in the city. Problem is that we have to get the collectively a group of minds that are working towards one goal, and everybody understands their role. In Birmingham, it's hard to say that. It's hard to bring that together right now, for various reasons. In the future, we may have a way of accomplishing that. Fingers crossed, we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see in the next 2 or 3 years whether we can contribute to making something happen. It needs to happen for the players, for the game in the country as a whole, and hopefully it does in the near future.
All right. Right, before we wrap up, I just got some more quick fire questions just to finish with. So starting with the best player that you've ever played against.
You can go with Sherelle Ford. There's not just one guy. We can go with Sherelle Ford. We can go with Maurice Trotter, which is my teammate at Illinois State. We could go with Allen Iverson, Stephen Marbury. I don't know, Manu Ginobili, maybe. Maybe he's probably the best one because his first step was ridiculous. I mean, we all see it, but to play against it, his first step is pretty much, I had a tough time guarding him. Sherelle Ford is impossible to guard. Am I getting his right now? Sherelle Ford, I think that's his name. He used to play for Olympiacos. He had a big neck. He died of some rare disease.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure who he is.
But he was a phenomenal scorer. Played a lot of years in Greece. Like I said, I played against Ginobili when he was at Reggio Calabria, and I think in Europe when he was at Kindern. He's a tough guy to guard because of his first step and the way he moves his body. But there's a few guys I would love to mention that were good guys because my role in every team was always to guard the best guard. As a pro, I would get cooked by some, but do a good job against some as well.
Yeah. Your best game of your career?
Tennessee games up there. I had a good game for Bologna in the first round. I've had a few good games.
Yeah, of course.
The most important game with my best stat line, would probably be that Tennessee game.
Your favorite teammate?
My favorite teammate. That's a tough one, man. That's tough. I've got to, I love a lot of my teammates.
Fair enough. Be political. Be political. And the best coach you've ever played under?
I've got three. I base my style around these three. Would be Kevin Stallings. The style of play, intensity, his style of play, his coaching was good. Torre Messina, even though I had a small stint with him, I saw how much the detail matters. And Dusan Ivkovic, just to find ways to win and to know how to shut your opposition down. So those three, I couldn't just name one. I would have to say those three. But with the length of time, number one out of those three would have to be Kevin Stallings.
And then, in your opinion, your best / favourite British player?
Again, one guy.
You give us a handful if you want to give us a handful.
Handful. I'll go with Betts, Amici, Bucknell. English teammates, yeah. England teammates.
Yeah. England teammates, GB teammates, just the British players.
Yeah, Betts, Buck. Delmy, Yarick, those are my guys.
Perfect. Cool. We're coming up to an hour and a half, so that's a perfect place to leave it. Steve, it has been a huge pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on the show, and I'm sure we will catch up again soon.
Thanks a lot.